Welcome to SEC Plus. Gary Laney of Advance Digital here, along with Jim Kleinpeter of the Times-Picayune, NOLA.com to my left, Joel Erickson of AL.com to my right. And we head officially to the summertime months, the off-season in the SEC, and there's still a lot of questions hanging over post-spring. And guys, I think we could start with the Western Division and the fact that some of the teams that have been pretty established at quarterback the last few years now find themselves transitioning. We're talking about Alabama, LSU, Texas A&M, and I'll start with you, Jim Kleinpeter. LSU to start with, they go into the fall with a quarterback battle, it looks like.
Yeah, it's kind of puzzling, too. It looked like Anthony Jennings might be in position just to cruise into the job, but all the talk is that Brandon Harris is going to pass him up. Brandon Harris obviously does not have quite the grip on the job because he just enrolled in January. But Anthony Jennings, he's clearly the better athlete. He's the better quarterback between the two, and the idea this summer is to get him ready. I think eventually he'll be the starter. I think Anthony Jennings will start the first game or maybe even the first two or three, but eventually Brandon Harris is going to take over. And it's an issue for LSU mainly because they're also hurting at their other skill positions. The running back, they're going to have Leonard Fournette, but the wide receivers are going to the youth of wide receiver is going to delay the progress of the quarterback, I think. And you saw how much the wide receivers did for Zach Mettenberger last year. But it's kind of an equal thing because Alabama and Texas A&M have the same problem. And I think Texas A&M, Kevin Sumlin's got to prove that his offense can survive in the SEC and prosper without Johnny Manziel. Now it's got to. Was it Johnny Manziel that made it go, or was it Kevin Sumlin's offense?
Yeah, Joel, in the state of Alabama, Auburn sitting pretty with Nick Marshall at quarterback, and backup had a good spring too, and the rival Alabama kind of waiting to see if Mr. Coker's going to be the answer.
Yeah, the Auburn's kind of the example that a lot of these SEC West teams are kind of hoping to follow with a new quarterback. They brought in Nick Marshall last year. And he was a borderline all-SEC type player, basically transformed the offense. So you wonder if Alabama probably looks like they've got the best situation coming up just because Coker was beaten out by Jameis Winston, but he got rave reviews of, BCS week, talking to Florida State players. They all had just all kinds of praise for Coker and what he could do and said that he could have been a starter too at Florida State. So I think that without knowing exactly what he looks like in Alabama's offense, he seems like the one best suited to step in. Question is, can he do it? What's going to be the transition process as he learns a new offense?
Yeah, and while so many of the Western powers have questions at quarterback in the East, Florida has their quarterback coming back in Jeff Driscoll. I guess the big question is, can they finally get an effective Jeff Driscoll with a new offensive coordinator? I'll go to you first, Jim.
Yeah, well, Florida, it's two of the last three seasons have just been disasters. So Will Muschamp's on the hot seat, but Jeff Driscoll has had some issues just with injuries and with just an ineffective offense last year. And as a senior with a new offensive coordinator, maybe this will be a good fresh start for him. But what that means is with Florida's demise in the last 3 years, it's opened up the East. And Missouri stepped in last year. They're going to probably take a step back with all the talent the Missouri Tigers have lost. And then but South Carolina and Florida, are going to be the ones that are going to be battling, I think. But it's a big question, and how well Driscoll plays will probably determine Will Muschamp's future.
Yeah, and last year, Jamie covered Zach Mettenberger getting the most out of his game from a new offensive coordinator in Cam Cameron. And Joel, do you think Kurt Roper can have the same effect on Driscoll? Do you think Driscoll goes out with a bang with the new offensive coordinator?
Well, that the real question I think falls to Driscoll more than Roper. I think Driscoll in the past hasn't really been the most accurate passer, and from what I know of Roper's system, I think it hinges on being able to make all those short and intermediate throws. So it's kind of on Driscoll to take the next step as a passer.
Where a lot of teams have offensive questions. Joel, your team that you cover, Auburn, I guess the questions are on the other side of the ball. They weren't great on defense last year, made it to the national championship game anyway, but they lose some talent in the secondary, and they lose their pass rusher and D Ford. How is that looking going into the offseason?
Well, the question's really not necessarily so much how they replace some of those guys, but whether or not they can get other people to help them out. Ford really with 10.5 sacks was the one key constant in the pass rush, and it looks like Carl Lawson will be taking over for him and probably can handle the load as the number one pass rusher. He looked decent last year. The question is who's going to step up as a number two, and are they going to get enough pressure from the inside? In the secondary, they've got players there. I think that some of their losses in the secondary are probably a little bit overblown. I don't know that they lost I don't know that they lost an all SEC type player back there. The question is, can they fix their depth issues? They were hurt a lot last year and playing with 5 guys for 6 spots or 4 guys for 6 spots and trying to mix and match. Question for them is, can they get enough depth that if that happens again, they can continue to play well?
All right, there you have it. Those are questions that you'll keep hearing probably until we kick off in September or late August as it is. And until then, for Jim and Joel, I'm Gary Laney. See you guys next time.